Hey, dear members of the Soul Stories family. Today we will bring you a romantic love story, so let's get started. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any meaningful stories. Chapter 1. The Encounter. Flying Soup, Falling Shoe. Elena stood in front of the mirror in her tiny kitchen, holding a steaming bowl of chicken soup, telling herself that today would be the day she conquered the neighborhood. She had moved into this rundown old building 3 days ago, and after burning a tray of cookies, which she still ate because she couldn't bear to waste them, she decided to try again with chicken soup, the only dish she was confident she wouldn't mess up. Who could say no to chicken soup? She muttered, smoothing down her wild bird's nest curls, then stepping outside with the bowl and a radiant smile. House number 9 was right next door, a small, faded green place that looked like it had rejected all of life's joys. The grass grew patchy and uneven in the front yard. The curtains were always drawn, and the neighbors whispered that the guy who lived there was the weirdest in the block. But Elena wasn't afraid. She was the type who believed a hot bowl of soup could melt even the coldest heart. "I'll be his sunshine," she told herself, stepping onto the porch in her worn-out, heel-frayed sneakers. The porch of number 9 was suspiciously slick, probably from last night's rain, but Elena didn't notice. She rang the doorbell, cradling the soup in her other hand like it was a precious gift. No answer. She rang again, then knocked, muttering under her breath, "Come on, open up. I'm not a delivery guy." Right then, her foot slipped on the damp wood. "Oh my God," she yelped, arms flailing to keep her balance. But the soup wasn't so lucky. It launched into the air, spinning in a perfect slow-motion arc like something out of a movie, before crashing onto the porch with a resounding splat. Chicken soup splattered everywhere, onto her jeans, into her hair, even a bit on the door. Before she could recover, one of her sneakers, flung loose by her wild stumble, flew off her foot and hurtled toward the glass panel beside the door. Crash! The glass rattled but didn't break, though the noise was loud enough to startle the whole street. Elena stood there, one shoe on, one foot bare, soup in her hair, mouth agape. "Oh no, oh no, oh no!" The door swung open instantly, and a man appeared. He was tall, lanky, with messy black hair, like a bird had nested in it, wearing a wrinkled t-shirt and gray sweatpants. His eyes narrowed, his face scowling, as if he'd just been woken from a good dream into a nightmare. "What did you just throw at my house?" he snapped, his deep voice laced with irritation, pointing at the shoe now rolling across the porch. Elena blinked, forcing a shaky smile even as her mind screamed, "Run! Run now!" Hi," she said, her voice cracking. "I'm Elena, your new neighbor from number 8. I actually meant to give you some soup, but, well, you can call me a vandal now." She gestured to the soupy mess spreading across the porch, then shrugged as if this were a normal day in her life. Nathan, she guessed that was his name, since the old lady at number 7 had mentioned a crazy Nathan, stared at her like she'd just stepped off an alien spaceship. He glanced at the broken bowl, then the shoe, then back at her, his lips pressed tight as if holding back a storm. "I don't eat soup," he said, his tone icy, "and I don't like neighbors. Get lost." He turned to slam the door shut. "Wait!" Elena shouted, throwing up a hand like a traffic cop. She stepped forward, nearly slipping again in the soup, but caught herself on the doorframe. "I mean, you don't have to eat it. I just wanted to say hi." And she bent down to pick up her shoe, shaking off a few soup droplets. "I didn't mean to throw it, I swear. It just flew. I'm super clumsy. You'll get used to it." Nathan turned back, fixing her with a glare she swore could freeze an ocean. "What did you just say? Get used to it?" He crossed his arms, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Are you planning to chuck a fridge at my house next time?" Elena burst out laughing, a loud, carefree laugh, even though nothing about this was funny. "No way, I'm not that strong, but..." She pointed at the mess. "It's really good soup. Chicken with carrots, a bit of onion, some pepper to warm you up. Don't you want to try a bite before you clean it up?" She winked, trying to lighten his mood, but Nathan just glared longer. "I'm not hungry," he said, then pointed down the street. "Can you leave now? I don't want to deal with any more messes." Elena sighed, shrugging. "Fine, I'm going, but..." She dug into her pocket, pulling out a yellow sticky note and a stubby pen. She scribbled something, then set it down beside the soup puddle. "If you change your mind, give it a try. It's awesome soup, don't regret it." She hopped off the porch, forgetting she was missing a shoe, and nearly fell again. "Oof!" she yelped, grabbing the fence, then turning back with a goofy grin. "See? Told you I'm clumsy." Nathan didn't respond, just stood there watching her hobble home with one bare foot holding her soggy shoe. The door slammed shut, but just before it closed completely, Elena caught a faint, Not quite annoyed, more like he was thrown off by her. Back home, Elena flopped onto her couch, staring at her soup-streaked hair in the small wall mirror. "What a way to meet the neighbors," she muttered, then burst out laughing. She pictured Nathan standing in his house, staring at the mess in her note. "It's awesome soup. Don't regret it. Elena, vandal of number 8. She didn't know if he'd clean it up or leave it as a warning to future neighbors. But one thing she knew for sure, she wasn't giving up. "Tomorrow I'll try cookies," she told herself, then winced, remembering how she'd nearly burned down her old apartment last time she baked. On the other side of the wall, Nathan stood in his dark kitchen, broom in hand, peering through the curtain, slit at the chaos on his porch. He muttered, "What a disaster." But as his eyes flicked to the yellow note, the corner of his mouth twitched. Just a tiny bit, enough to make him wonder if he was losing it for finding this slightly amusing. Chapter 2. The Clumsy Girl and the Crazy Neighbor. 3 days after the flying soup disaster, Elena still hadn't given up on befriending the neighborhood, especially the oddball neighbor at number 9. She was the kind of person who was foolishly optimistic, always believing things would work out, even though reality often proved otherwise. For example, last week she'd planted a row of cacti in her front yard, hoping to turn the place into a green oasis, but forgot to water them until they shriveled up like overcooked vegetables. Or take the stray cat she'd adopted. She named it Fluff, fed it milk, even made it a bed from an old towel, only for it to bolt the next morning, leaving her with a bowl of spilled milk swarming with ants. "My life's a comedy series," she told herself, but still grinned ear to ear as she looked at her dried-up cacti. This little neighborhood wasn't exactly a dreamland of peace. The houses were old, the paint peeling, and the neighbors preferred whispering to waving hello. But what intrigued Elena most were the stories about Nathan, the guy at number 9. Old Mrs. Martha from number 7 had once told her with gleaming eyes, he chased off an ice cream clown just for singing too loud. Stood in the middle of the street with a leaf broom, yelling, "Shut up or I'll shove that ice cream down your throat." Mr. Tom from number 10 chimed in, "It was my kid's birthday that day. The whole block was in stitches." Elena wasn't sure if it was true, but she pictured Nathan as a comedic villain, grumpy, a little unhinged, and maybe kind of funny. That morning, Elena decided to water her cacti, though she knew they were beyond saving. She wore an oversized t-shirt, a tattered straw hat, and carried a tiny watering can borrowed from Mrs. Martha. As she hummed an impromptu tune, "Cacti, don't die on me. I love you so much," she heard grumbling from number 9. Looking up, she saw Nathan in his yard, wielding a long-handled broom, his face twisted like someone had stolen his sleep. He was swinging the broom wildly at his roof, growling, "These stupid birds are ruining my house. Get lost, you winged pests." Elena blinked, then burst out laughing, a loud, echoing laugh that carried over the short wooden fence between their yards. Nathan whipped around, his eyes narrowing into tiny daggers. "What's so funny?" he snapped, gripping the broom like he might hurl it at her. "No, nothing." Elena waved her hands in defense, but the grin stayed plastered on her face. "It's just, you're chasing birds with a broom? Should I call animal control to cheer you up?" She set the watering can down, hands on hips, pretending to be serious. "I thought you hating me was enough, but turns out you hate pigeons too. You're a real multitasker." Nathan glared at her, a stare so long she wondered if he was plotting to dig her grave right there in the yard. "You're too loud," he said, his voice low and cold. "These birds have been perched on my roof all week, crapping everywhere. You try living with that smell and see if you chase them off." He swung the broom again, this time hitting a bird, which squawked cuckoo and flew off, leaving a few feathers drifting to the ground. Elena tilted her head, eyeing the feathers, then him. Okay, I get it. But chasing birds with a broom makes you look more like an old man shooing kids out of his garden than a superhero saving his roof. She picked up the watering can, pretending to water her plants, but splashed herself in the face instead. Ah, she yelped, wiping her face with her sleeve, then turning to Nathan with an awkward smile. See? I've got my own problems. We're not so different, huh? Not even close, Nathan shot back, his tone flat. He turned to head inside, but Elena wasn't letting him off that easy. Hey, wait, she shouted, running to the fence and nearly tripping over the watering can she'd dropped. What's your name? I'm Elena. You probably know that from the soup fiasco. Aren't you going to introduce yourself? Nathan stopped, glancing back over his shoulder. I don't need friends, he said, enunciating each word like he was swatting a fly. And I don't care who you are. Stop coming over here. Oh, fine, Elena shrugged, but her eyes sparkled with mischief. Then I'll call you Broom Guy. Suits your style. She pointed at the broom in his hand, then laughed louder as his face darkened. Kidding, kidding. I'm not that mean, but... She bent down to pick up a feather that had fallen near the fence, holding it up like a trophy. If you need help chasing birds, call me. My singing's so bad it'll scare them all away. Nathan didn't answer right away. He stood there gripping the broom, staring at her like she was the strangest creature he'd ever seen. But then, a miracle happened. The corner of his mouth twitched, just a tiny bit, as if he was fighting a smile and losing. You're nuts, he muttered, too quiet for her to hear clearly, before turning and slamming the door behind him. Elena stood there for a moment, still holding the feather. Did I just make him laugh? She wondered, then skipped back to her house, forgetting all about her dying cacti baking in the sun. She didn't know that inside number 9, Nathan had tossed the broom onto the couch, flopped into a chair, and muttered, She's trouble. But this time, his voice wasn't as grumpy as usual. There was a hint of something softer, though he'd never admit it. That afternoon, Elena sat in her kitchen, slurping instant noodles and scribbling on a sticky note. Broom Guy, I'll bring cookies next time. Don't chase me off like the birds. She stuck it on her window, facing number 9, grinning wide. She knew he couldn't read it from there, but imagining him fuming when he saw it was enough to make her day. I'll get him to laugh out loud one of these days, as she told herself, then spilled her noodles on her shirt and yelped, Oh no, not today. Chapter 3, The Soup War and the Troll Notes, 1,500 words. After the flying soup fiasco in the broom-chasing bird spectacle, Elena decided that Nathan, or Broom Guy, as she'd nicknamed him, wouldn't escape her friendly onslaught so easily. She wasn't the type to give up, even if her cooking skills could make the world question the definition of edible. He needs someone to brighten up that gloomy life of his, she told herself, standing in her kitchen with an apron still dusted with flour from her last baking disaster. Today she resolved to try again, not with soup, the memory of the flying shoe still haunted her, but with cookies, a treat she believed was pretty hard to mess up. Elena stood over a tray of freshly baked cookies, inspecting her handiwork. The round, perfect cookies she'd envisioned had turned into a charred, misshapen mess, blackened at the edges. Probably still edible, she muttered, taking a bite and wincing as the bitter taste hit her. But with her unshakable optimism, she packed them into a paper box, scribbled a note on a yellow sticky. These are a little dark but edible, I swear. Elena, number 8, and skipped out of the house. She left the box on Nathan's doorstep, knocked twice, then bolted back home like a kid pulling a prank. The next day, Elena peeked through her curtains, buzzing with anticipation. She didn't see Nathan, but the box was gone. Ha 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 ha! He took it! She cheered, clapping like she just won a chess match. She pictured him inside, nibbling on the burnt cookies and secretly praising her talent. But that afternoon, when she went to check her mail, she found the empty box dumped in front of her door, along with a pencil-scrawled note. You're a terrible cook. Stop trying. The handwriting was messy and curt, exactly what she'd expect from a guy who didn't waste words. Elena doubled over laughing. He ate them all and still complained? She dashed inside, grabbed another piece of paper, and wrote, Oh, you ate them all and still dissed them? Shameless. Next time I'll make them better, don't worry. She taped the note to the empty box, placed it back on Nathan's doorstep, and hid inside to see if he'd pick it up. But the whole day passed with no sign of him. He's probably too embarrassed to reply, she told herself, then moved on to her next scheme. The following day, Elena brewed a cup of tea, cheap supermarket tea bags, but let it go stone cold while she got distracted watching comedy clips on her phone. "Oh well, cold's fine," she shrugged, pouring it into an old plastic cup and jotting a note. "Tea for grumpy people. Drink it before I tell the whole block you're bullying me." She set the cup on Nathan's doorstep, tossing in a lollipop she found in her bag as a surprise bribe. This time she hid behind the fence, waiting to catch his reaction. Less than 10 minutes later, Nathan's door swung open. He stepped out, broom in hand, that broom again, eyeing the tea and lollipop like they might explode. He picked up the note, skimmed it, and muttered something Elena couldn't hear. She clamped a hand over her mouth to stifle a laugh as he lifted the tea, sniffed it, then dumped it straight onto the ground. "Hey!" she yelled from behind the fence, unable to hold back. "What are you doing? I put my heart into that." Nathan spun around, his face darkening. "Are you spying on me?" he snapped, holding the empty cup. "This tea's ice cold. Are you trying to poison me or what?" "Poison? No way," Elena stepped out, hands on hips. "It's cold because I was busy watching a movie, but my good intentions were piping hot. And if you're just gonna dump it, fine. But why not keep the lollipop? It was free." Nathan glanced at the lollipop still sitting on the porch, then glared at her. "I don't eat stuff from strangers," he said, but his tone wasn't as frigid as before. He picked up the lollipop, stuffed it into his pocket, and stormed back inside, slamming the door. Elena stood there stunned, then burst out laughing. "Ha ha ha, he kept the lollipop. Progress." She went home feeling like she'd scored a point in some invisible game, but she didn't stop there. The next day, she baked a small cake. This time it didn't burn, though its shape was odd. She'd aimed for a smiley face, but it looked more like a flattened frog. She wrote a note. "Smile for once. Your face looks like the world owes you money. Elena," and left the cake on Nathan's doorstep with a plastic fork so he couldn't complain about a mess. That afternoon, while Elena was watering her plants and splashing herself in the face again, she heard a knock. Surprised, she ran to open her door and found the empty cake plate waiting, with a note. "Ugly cake like you, but edible." Elena clutched her stomach, laughing until tears streamed down her face. "Oh my God, he's trolling me back!" she shouted, racing inside to grab paper and write. "Ugly cake, and you ate it all. Who's shameless now? Next time I'll make it pretty, so get ready." The note war raged on. Elena left a box of savory crackers with, "Not sweet, perfect for someone who hates fun like you." Nathan replied, "You're louder than these crackers." She sent a cup of lemonade. "Drink this to sweeten up." He returned the empty cup. "Still sour like you." Each time she read his notes, Elena cracked up, while Nathan, though he'd never admit it, started looking forward to her weird gifts. One day he stood in his kitchen, staring at the lumpy smiley face cake, muttering, "She's nuts." But he took a bite, and the corner of his mouth ticked up, the first smile no one saw. Elena didn't know that, but she sensed the wall between them cracking, one note at a time. "He doesn't hate me," she told herself, then dropped the fresh lemonade she just made onto the floor, yelling, "Oh no, not again!" Her shout carried through the window, and at number 9, Nathan heard it, shook his head, but this time he didn't grumble. He just chuckled, ever so faintly. Chapter 4. The random incident. He faints, she screams. That morning, Elena woke up in an unusually cheerful mood. After days of verbal sparring through notes with Nathan, she felt like she was winning this friendly war. Today, she decided to water her patch of dead cacti, not because she hoped to revive them, but because it gave her an excuse to linger near the fence and spy on whether Nathan would pick up her latest note. She'd left a box of cookies, not burnt this time, but overly salty because she'd mistaken salt for sugar, with a message. "Eat these to match your salty attitude, Elena." Dressed in an oversized t-shirt and a tattered straw hat, she held a small watering can, singing an improvised tune. "Cacti, come back to life. I need you to troll broom guy." Mid-song, she heard a heavy thud from the yard of number 9. Looking up, she saw Nathan sprawled flat among the patchy grass, clutching his chest, his face pale as paper. His beloved broom lay abandoned beside him, as if it had lost its final battle with the pigeons. Elena froze for a second, the watering can slipping from her hand with a clank, splashing water onto her feet. "Oh my God!" she shrieked, vaulting over the fence with a speed she didn't know she had. "Nathan, are you dead? Don't die in front of my house. I don't want to clean up a body." She dropped to her knees beside him, panic making her hands tremble. Nathan wasn't moving. His lips were tinged purple, his breathing faint, like it might stop any second. "No, no, no!" Elena muttered, patting his cheeks. "Hey, wake up! You can't pass out here. I don't know CPR." She glanced around. The yard was deserted, not a soul in sight. A light rain began to fall, adding to the chaos. "Okay, calm down," she told herself, fumbling for her phone in her pocket, her shaky hands nearly dropping it. She dialed 911, yelling into the receiver. "Hello, I need an ambulance. My neighbor passed out. He's lying in the yard, and I don't know what to do. Hurry to 9 Elmwood Street." The operator asked a few questions, but Elena stammered. "I don't know. He grabbed his chest and fell. It's not my cookies, I swear." She hung up, turning back to Nathan, still motionless in the rain. "I've got to drag him into the shade," she decided, though she had no idea how to move someone a head taller than her. Grabbing his arms, she yanked, but he was heavy as a sack of bricks. "God, what do you eat to weigh this much?" she grumbled, managing a few steps before tripping over the broom and tumbling backward. Just then, she heard a clink. Nathan's glasses, loosely perched on his nose, fell off and slid straight into the nearby storm drain. "Oh no!" Elena screamed, crawling to the drain's edge, watching the glasses vanish into the murky water. "Nathan, I'm sorry, I lost your glasses." She turned back. He still wasn't responding. The rain intensified, soaking her shirt, but she didn't care. She pulled again, more determined this time, muttering, "If you don't wake up, I'll leave you here for the birds to poop on." Finally, she dragged him under the porch overhang, propping him up with his head resting on her soggy sneakers. The ambulance arrived after 10 agonizing minutes that felt like a lifetime. 2 paramedics leapt out, firing off questions. "Are you related to him?" Elena, hair plastered to her face, answered, "I'm his neighbor. I don't know what's wrong. I just saw him collapse." They quickly loaded Nathan onto a stretcher, checked his pulse, and whisked him into the vehicle. One turned back. "Are you coming?" Elena nodded instantly, no hesitation. "Yes, I lost his glasses. I have to apologize." At the hospital, Elena sat hunched in the waiting room, soaked to the bone, clutching a cold coffee she didn't drink. She was still trembling, not from the chill, but from the image of Nathan collapsing, replaying in her mind. "I thought he was just grumpy," she mumbled. "Not this." A doctor emerged, calling her. "Are you family of Nathan Hayes?" Elena shook her head. "No, just a neighbor. How is he?" The doctor sighed, guiding her to a quiet corner. "He has end-stage heart failure," he said, voice low. "We've stabilized him, but it's critical. He's refused a transplant for a while, so he doesn't have much time." Elena gaped, jaw dropping. "Heart failure? End stage?" She blinked, processing it. "And here I thought he was grumpy because he hated my face. God, I even trolled him with salty cookies." The doctor raised an eyebrow, surprised. "You didn't know anything about him?" Elena shook her head, forcing a smile. "I just knew he hated pigeons and my soup. Oh, and I dropped his glasses down a drain." She recounted dragging him to safety, her tone a mix of worry and absurdity. The doctor gave a small smile. "You saved him. If you hadn't called 911 in time, he might not have made it." Elena was led to the recovery room, where Nathan lay on a bed, eyes closed, machines beeping beside him. She stood by his side, hands clasped, unsure what to say. After a while, Nathan's eyes fluttered open, fixing her with a tired but sharp gaze. "What are you doing here?" he asked, voice raspy. Elena jumped, then grinned. "I saved you!" "You fainted in the yard. I dragged you to the porch and called the ambulance. But," she scratched her head, blushing, "I dropped your glasses down a drain. Sorry." Nathan frowned, staring at her like he couldn't believe it. "You dragged me?" he muttered. "I thought I got hit by a truck." No truck, Elena waved her hands. Just me. I yelled a lot. Bet you heard me say, don't die in front of my house, right? She laughed loudly, then stopped when he didn't join in. Hey, you okay? The doctor said you've got... You're a walking disaster, Nathan interrupted, his voice weak but still dripping with sarcasm. I passed out and still heard you screaming. My head hurts worse because of you. He closed his eyes as if to sleep again, but the corner of his mouth twitched. That familiar sign Elena was starting to recognize. Yeah, I'm clumsy, she admitted, sitting by his bed. But I didn't know you were sick. I thought you really hated me. Her voice softened, losing its usual cheer for the first time. Nathan opened his eyes, staring at her for a long moment, then sighed. I don't hate you, he said, so quietly she almost missed it. I just don't want anyone close. Elena blinked, then smiled faintly. So you like my cookies, huh? Nathan glared but didn't answer, turning his face away. She stood, patting his shoulder. Rest up, broom guy. I'll go make you some tea. This time it'll be hot. She walked out, but her chest felt heavy. He didn't hate her, but he was dying, and she didn't know what to do with that truth. Chapter 5. The First Conversation. 3 days after the fainting incident in the yard, Elena had almost forgotten the heaviness she felt at the hospital. She wasn't the type to let sadness take root for long. Life, to her, was a series of comical mishaps she always found a way to laugh off. She just endured a morning of kitchen failure, attempting to make orange jam as a follow-up to her hot tea promise from the hospital, only to end up with a burnt, sticky mess. I'm really not cut out for cooking, she muttered, staring at the scorched pot, then decided to sit outside to clear her head. She brought a glass of plain water, too wary to attempt tea again, and a notebook, planning to scribble another trolling note for Nathan, but hadn't come up with anything clever yet. While fiddling with her pen on the porch, Elena heard a knock, not the rapid tapping of Mrs. Martha or the loud banging of Mr. Tom delivering misdirected mail. This was a soft, hesitant knock, as if the person outside wasn't sure they should be there. She leapt up, knocking over her glass, water splashing across her feet. Who's that? She mumbled, wiping her hands on her shirt before rushing to the door. There stood Nathan, tall and lanky, hair still a bird's nest, dressed in a gray t-shirt and faded jeans. He looked less pale than he had in the hospital, but his eyes carried their usual weariness. In his hands was a bag of oranges, small, rough-skinned ones, likely from the nearby convenience store. Here, he said, his low voice tinged with irritation, thrusting the bag toward her. Don't drop it this time. Elena blinked, then broke into a wide grin, forgetting the puddle she just made inside. Oh, you know how to buy oranges? She teased, taking the bag from him. I thought you only knew how to yell at birds and chase neighbors with a broom. She opened the bag, sniffed an orange, and wrinkled her nose. Are they sour? I don't like sour oranges. Did you pick them carefully? Nathan glared at her, crossing his arms. I didn't pick them for you, he said dryly. I bought them for myself. The doctor said they're good for me. I had extra, so I brought them over. Don't get the wrong idea. He turned his face away as if embarrassed by his first act of kindness. Extra or not, I'm still grateful. Elena laughed loudly, setting the bag on the porch step. She pointed to an old wooden chair nearby. Sit down, you're standing there like a lamppost, and it's making me dizzy. I'll get you some water. Don't run off. She spun back inside, nearly tripping over the spilled water, yelping, Oh no! Nathan heard her shout, shook his head, but still shuffled over to sit, hands stuffed in his pockets as if forced into it. Elena returned with 2 glasses of water, one for her, one for him, but her clumsiness sloshed some of his onto the porch. Oops, sorry, she said with an awkward grin, handing it over. I'm such a klutz. You'll get used to it. Nathan took the glass, eyeing the puddle spreading beneath him, muttering, I'm already used to it. You've been spilling stuff since the day we met. They sat there under the pale midday sun, the quiet broken only by the distant coo-coo of pigeons on number 9's roof. Elena sipped her water, then launched into a story, unable to stand the silence. You know, I once set my kitchen on fire making soup, she said, eyes lighting up. I was trying to make pumpkin soup, but I forgot to turn off the stove, and flames shot up, I screamed so loud the neighbors thought there was a burglar. I threw water on it, but grabbed dish soap by mistake, and the whole place turned into a bubble bath. She laughed heartily, clutching her stomach as if it were her proudest memory. Nathan stared at her, brow furrowed. "You're a disaster," he said, but his tone lacked its usual chill. He took a sip of water, then unexpectedly spoke up. "I got scratched by a stray cat once trying to shoo it away. It was sleeping on my porch. I grabbed the broom to scare it, but it turned around, jumped on me, and clawed my arm. Hurt like hell." He lifted his left hand, showing a faint scar near his wrist, the corner of his mouth twitching upward as if laughing at himself. Elena's jaw dropped. Then she burst into even louder laughter. "Oh my God, you got revenge scratched by a cat? I thought you only hated birds. Turns out cats won't spare you either. You've got a real knack with animals, huh?" She leaned closer, inspecting the scar like it was a treasure. "See, we're alike after all. I spill stuff. You get clawed. We're both disasters in our own way." "I'm not like you," Nathan shot back instantly, but his gaze softened. He set his glass down, looking out at the yard. "You're noisier than I expected. I'm not used to people like you." He paused as if about to say more, then fell silent. Elena tilted her head, watching him for a moment, then asked softly, "You don't really hate me, do you?" "I know I'm kind of loud. People around here say I talk too much, but I can't help it." Her voice dipped, carrying a rare hint of worry, as if afraid he'd get up and leave. Nathan turned to her, eyes narrowing like he was weighing his words. "I hate you less than the pigeons," he said evenly, with a trace of dry humor. "It's tolerable." He picked up an orange from the bag, peeling it slowly, his movements awkward, as if unaccustomed to doing this in front of someone. "But stop singing. Your voice is awful." "Hey," Elena yelped, pretending to be offended. "My voice isn't awful. It's unique. If you hear me sing again, you'll love it." She snatched an orange from his hands, peeling it deftly and handing him a segment. "Eat this and stop complaining. It's a gift from me. Don't get the wrong idea." She winked, echoing his earlier line, making Nathan pause for a second. He took the segment, bit into it, and grimaced. "Sour," he muttered, but kept eating. Elena laughed. "See? I told you. You picked terrible oranges." They sat there, eating and bickering over who was clumsier, who deserved the pigeon's wrath more. For the first time, there were no notes, no trolling, just two people talking under the sun, a few sour oranges bridging the gap. When Nathan stood to leave, he turned back, voice low. "Thanks for the other day." "At the hospital." He didn't elaborate, but Elena understood. She grinned. "No problem, broom guy. Next time you faint, call me first. I'll drag you for free." Nathan shook his head and walked off, but she swore she saw him smile. A tiny, fleeting smile, just enough to make her day. Chapter 6. Love, slow, and hilarious. After their first real conversation on the porch, Elena felt like she'd cracked Nathan's rigid outer shell, if only by a tiny sliver. She no longer called him broom guy in her head, though she still loved teasing him with her playful antics. She knew he was sick, knew his time was limited, but she refused to let that turn everything into a tragedy. "If he has to live in gloomy days, I'll be his sunshine," she told herself, even if her brand of sunshine often came with a few clumsy rain showers. That day, Elena decided to rope Nathan into gardening with her. She'd long since tossed out the dead cacti in her front yard and wanted to replace them with a flower bed, something vibrant to liven up the dreary neighborhood. She stood at number 9's door, clutching a small shovel and a packet of daisy seeds, banging loudly. Nathan opened it, his face sour like she'd just woken him from a nap. "What do you want now?" he asked gruffly. "Garden with me." Elena grinned, brandishing the shovel like a trophy. "I'm planting flowers out front. Help me dig, okay? Don't say no, I know you're free." She winked, but Nathan just crossed his arms and glared. "I don't know how to plant stuff," he grumbled. "I only know how to dig graves." He turned to shut the door, but Elena jammed the shovel in the gap, nearly dropping it. "Hey, don't go!" she yelled. "Digging graves or digging dirt, it's the same thing. Just no burying anyone this time. Come on, it'll be fun." Nathan sighed but eventually took the shovel from her and trudged out to the yard, looking like he'd been sentenced to community service. The sun shone gently, the air carrying a faint scent of dry grass. Elena pointed to a spot in her yard. "Dig there, deep enough for the seeds." Nathan nodded and started digging, but after 3 scoops, a loud whoosh erupted. Water sprayed from the ground like a fire hose, blasting him square in the face. He yelled, "What the hell?" while Elena froze for a second, then doubled over laughing. "Oh my God, you hit a pipe!" she screamed, hopping through the mud to shut off the valve near the fence. But she slipped, tumbling into the puddle, soaking herself head to toe. Nathan, equally drenched, wiped his face, staring at her with a mix of anger and resignation. "You told me to dig," he snapped, his hair plastered to his forehead, looking like a drowned cat. Elena scrambled up, water dripping from her clothes, but she couldn't stop laughing. "You're a pro at digging graves. 1 scoop and it's a geyser." She clapped, splashing more water onto him. Nathan glared, but then did something she didn't expect. He smirked, letting out a short, clear laugh. "You're trouble," he muttered, tossing the shovel down, standing there sopping wet. Elena stopped laughing, staring at him, her heart skipping a beat. "Did you just laugh?" she asked, eyes lighting up. "Oh my God, I made you laugh. I'm amazing." She reached to pat his shoulder, but slipped again, nearly falling. Nathan instinctively grabbed her arm to steady her, then let go quickly, turning away like he was embarrassed. "Don't get the wrong idea," he said, but his tone lacked its usual edge. They stood there, drenched, staring at the muddy mess and broken pipe, then burst into laughter together, for the first time simultaneously. Elena felt a warmth creep into her chest, despite the cold water seeping through her shirt. A few days later, she brought a tray of freshly baked chocolate cookies to Nathan's place. Not burnt this time, but sticky because she hadn't let them cool before stacking. She knocked, shouting, "Come get your cookies! I made them awesome!" Nathan opened the door, eyeing the tray skeptically. "You again," he muttered, but stepped onto the porch and sat when she tugged him down beside her. "Try one." Elena shoved a cookie into his hand, but her clumsiness tipped the tray. "Oh no," she yelped, trying to catch it, but it crashed onto Nathan, chocolate smearing across his shirt. She froze, hand over her mouth, then shouted louder, "Oh no, I just turned you into a giant cookie." She lunged to wipe him with her sleeve, only spreading the mess further. Nathan sat still, a streak of chocolate on his face, staring at her in disbelief. "You're why I won't make it to next year," he mumbled, his voice a mix of exhaustion and amusement. But then he did something she didn't expect. He laughed loud and clear, the sound ringing across the quiet porch. Elena gaped, then joined him, tears nearly spilling from laughing so hard. "That's the first time you've laughed that loud," she cheered, clapping and splattering chocolate onto her own face. "Because you're an idiot," Nathan replied, wiping his face but still chuckling. He picked a cookie off his shirt, took a bite, and shrugged. "Edible. Too sticky, though." Elena plopped down beside him, grabbing another piece and eating it happily despite her gooey hands. "See? I told you they're good," she boasted, though they both looked like they'd rolled through a bakery explosion. They sat there eating, wiping chocolate, and talking. Elena recounted nearly burning her house down forgetting birthday candles. Nathan shared how he'd tried fixing a bike, but snapped the front wheel. Silly stories and laughter filled the air, making things between them lighter than ever. But as the sunset glowed, Elena glanced at him, catching a flicker of sadness in his eyes, and couldn't help asking, "Are you scared?" Nathan stopped laughing, staring out at the yard, his hand tightening around a sticky cookie. "Scared of what?" he asked quietly. "Of everything," Elena said, her voice softening. "Your illness, I know about it. I don't want you to be sad, but I don't know what to do." She looked down, fidgeting with a chocolate smear on her shirt, not smiling for once. Nathan was silent for a long time, then turned to her. "I'm more scared of you than dying," he said evenly, with a hint of humor. Elena looked up, blinking. "Scared of me?" she asked, then chuckled faintly. "Because I'm too clumsy?" "Yeah," Nathan nodded, smirking. "You make me laugh, and I don't want to laugh. I don't want to like you." He turned away, but Elena's heart pounded. She couldn't tell if he was serious or joking, but a quiet sadness crept in. Not for herself, but for him, trying to keep her at arm's length despite himself. "What's wrong with liking me?" she said gently. "I like you too. You're grumpy, but your laugh's cute." She picked up the last cookie piece, handing it to him. "Eat this and stop being scared of me." "I don't bite, I just drop stuff." She winked, trying to coax another smile. Nathan took the cookie, staring at her for a moment, then took a bite. "You're a disaster," he muttered, but his eyes softened, like he'd let a piece of his wall crumble. They sat there in the fading light, laughing and aching, close yet distant, a slow, clumsy, but real kind of love. Chapter 7. The incident: he pushes, she jokes. The relationship between Elena and Nathan had slowly woven itself into the fabric of their lives, though neither would admit it out loud. For Elena, those clumsy moments with him, from the gushing pipe to the sticky chocolate cookie fiasco, were little bursts of light in her day. She wasn't good at facing sadness, so she chose to laugh, to make him laugh, even though deep down she knew he carried a darkness she couldn't reach. For Nathan, every time he heard her ridiculous shouts or read her trolling notes, his heart felt lighter, yet heavier too. He knew his time was slipping away. That day, Elena brought Nathan a box of freshly baked gingerbread cookies. They weren't burnt, but their shapes were warped, like bizarre creatures from a cartoon she'd once seen. She banged on number 9's door, yelling, "Come get your cookies! I made them look like you, ugly and all." She laughed loudly, expecting his usual grumble or half-annoyed, half-amused glare. But when Nathan opened the door, she instantly sensed something was off. He was thinner, his eyes sunken, and his hand trembled as he gripped the frame. "You brought stuff again?" he asked, his voice hoarse and lifeless. Elena frowned, forcing a smile. "Yeah, gingerbread. If you don't take them, I'll eat them all. Don't blame me." She held up the box, but Nathan didn't smile or snap back. He looked at her, his gaze cloudy as if trying to push her out of his sight. "Listen," he said, his tone low and sharp. "Stop wasting your energy on me. You're so clumsy. No one could stand you. Go bother someone else." His words hit like a slap. Elena froze, the box tilting in her hands. "What did you say?" she asked, her voice faltering. She tried to laugh, thinking he was joking, but his eyes were cold, devoid of humor. "What do you mean? Are you seriously kicking me out?" Nathan turned away, his grip tightening on the doorframe until his knuckles whitened. "I don't need anyone," he said, his voice hard as stone. "Don't you get it? I'm dying, Elena. Stop wasting your time on me." He stepped inside and slammed the door in her face, leaving her standing there with the cookies and a choking void in her chest. Elena didn't cry. She wasn't good at crying, but her chest felt heavy. She understood now. He didn't hate her. He was pushing her away because he was scared she'd hurt when he was gone. "Idiot," she muttered, trudging home and tossing the box onto the kitchen table. She flopped onto the couch, staring at the ceiling, searching for an answer. "He thinks I can't handle it? I'm clumsy, sure, but I'm not weak." She knew he was sick, knew his time was short, but hearing him say it so bluntly still stung. She was angry, but more than that, she pitied him. Pitied how he isolated himself, as if that was the only way to protect her. She stormed to the kitchen, grabbed a sticky note, and scribbled, "Fine, I'm leaving, but don't cry when you miss me. Your face is ugly enough, Elena." She didn't want him thinking she'd give up easily, so she opted for her childish revenge. She slapped the note on his door, banged once, and ran home, shutting the curtains, vowing to disappear, at least in his eyes. In reality, she holed up inside, watching comedies on TV, munching old cookies, and telling herself, "Let's see how long he lasts." The first day, Elena sprawled on the couch, watching a superhero movie, laughing at the dumb scenes, but her heart wasn't in it. She pictured Nathan reading her note, muttering something and tossing it. "He probably thinks he's won," she grumbled, dropping the remote and yelping, "Oh no!" She picked it up, kept watching, but every laugh reminded her of his rare chuckles. She knew he wanted her gone, but she didn't want to leave. Not because she was foolish, but because she felt he deserved someone by his side, even just for a little while. The second day, she ran out of good movies and switched to eating burnt cookies stashed in the cupboard. She peeked out the window through a slit in the curtains, seeing number 9's yard empty. "He's not coming out," she muttered, probably sitting inside blaming himself. She was mad, but she worried. Worried he'd be alone. Worried no one would ask, "Are you okay?" She wanted to march over, bang on his door, and yell that he couldn't push her away, but she held back. "No, let him come to me," she told herself, then spilled her water glass on her shirt, shouting, "Not again." By the third day, Nathan haunted her thoughts more than she'd admit. She'd run out of cookies, patience, and started feeling hollow. "I really miss him," she mumbled, hugging a pillow, but he wanted this. She didn't know that at number 9, Nathan was wrestling with himself too. Nathan read Elena's note the moment she stuck it on his door. "Don't cry when you miss me. Your face is ugly enough," he muttered, clutching the paper. He meant to throw it out, but left it on the kitchen table, staring at it like a reminder. He knew he didn't have long, months, maybe less. The doctor had made that clear. He didn't want Elena around, not because he hated her, but because he feared she'd cry. She'd hurt when he was gone. He wanted her shouts, her clumsiness, her stupid antics that made him laugh. But he didn't dare. She deserves better, he told himself, sitting in his dark room, hands trembling as another coughing fit hit. The second day, he looked out at the yard. No Elena. No awful singing. No new notes. "Good," he muttered, but his chest felt empty. He missed her, though he wouldn't admit it. On the third day, the coughing worsened. His chest ached, and he picked up her note again. "Your face is ugly enough," he reread, and the corner of his mouth twitched. He wanted to go to her, to say he didn't mean to push her away forever, but he lacked the courage. He grabbed his broom, stepped outside, pretending to shoo birds, just to glance at number 8. Through a gap in her curtains, he saw a new note on her window. "I'm not gone yet, idiot. Are you okay?" Elena. He froze, heart racing, and for the first time in 3 days, he felt relief. Elena, peeking from inside, saw him standing there, broom flailing. She laughed, dropping the glass she was holding, yelling, "Oh no, not again!" But she didn't care. She knew he hadn't given up, and neither had she. She understood he'd pushed her away to protect her, but she wouldn't let him face it alone, whether he liked it or not. Chapter 8. The Fake Birthday. Laughter through tears. After 3 days of hiding in her house with stale cookies and comedy films, Elena decided she'd sulked long enough. She couldn't stand the thought of leaving Nathan alone in his bleak silence. Not after she'd seen him in the yard, swinging his broom like he wanted to say something through the gesture. She knew he didn't want her close, but she also knew he needed her, whether he'd admit it or not. "I'll make him laugh big this time," she told herself, standing in her kitchen with a flower-streaked apron, gearing up for her grandest plan yet, a fake birthday party. Elena had no clue when Nathan's real birthday was. He'd never told her, and she didn't dare ask. But she thought, if he doesn't have much time left, I'll give him a birthday right now. She baked a big cake, vanilla with white frosting, slightly lopsided from over-whipping the cream, and decorated it to look like Nathan, with chocolate candy eyes and a red icing mouth. She scrawled on top, "Happy birthday to the nutcase at number 9, in messy handwriting, laughing at her creation. "Ugly but cute, just like him," she muttered, then dashed off to invite the neighborhood. She knocked on Mrs. Martha's door, Mr. Tom's, and a few others, shouting, "Party tonight at the park. Surprise birthday for Nathan. Don't tell him." Mrs. Martha grinned. "I'll bring tea." Mr. Tom nodded. "I'll bring chairs." Elena even roped in the neighborhood kids, promising candy if they'd sing the birthday song. She gathered balloons, paper hats, and a small folding table, setting it all up in the little park at the end of Elmwood Street. By evening, Elena stood at number 9's door, wearing a daisy-printed t-shirt and a glittery paper hat. She pounded on the door, yelling, "Nathan, get out here!" "It's urgent." Nathan opened it, his usual scowl in place, but his eyes flickered with surprise at her standing there, hat askew. "What are you up to?" he asked gruffly. "Come with me," Elena beamed, grabbing his hand and yanking him outside before he could resist. "No questions, just come. I won't drop anything this time, promise." Nathan tugged his hand back, but she pulled harder, and he shuffled after her, muttering, "You're such a pain." They reached the park, and as Nathan stepped past the trees, the whole neighborhood shouted, "Happy birthday!" Balloons floated, kids raced around, and Mrs. Martha raised her teacup like a toast. In the center sat the big cake with "Happy Birthday" to the nutcase at number 9, glowing under flashlights Mr. Tom had brought. Nathan froze, jaw dropping, staring at Elena with a mix of anger and disbelief. "What the hell is this?" he snapped, but his voice wavered, betraying his confusion. Elena shrugged, grinning wide. "A surprise party for you. I don't know when your real birthday is, so I'm celebrating early. Just in case you miss my cake." She dragged him to the table, plopping a paper hat on his head before he could protest. "Wear it! You look cute!" she shouted, making the kids burst into giggles. Nathan glared, clutching the hat like he might chuck it. "My birthday's next month," he said dryly, but his eyes scanned the crowd. Mrs. Martha, Mr. Tom, the kids, then landed on the ugly cake. "What did you make that's so hideous?" "It's you," Elena laughed, pointing at the chocolate eyes. "See? Spot on. Ugly but lovable." She clapped, signaling the kids to sing, "Happy birthday to Nathan, happy birthday to Nathan." Their off-key, chaotic voices filled the air with life. Nathan stood there, still holding the hat, his face flushing. Whether from anger or embarrassment, no one could tell. "Blow out the candles!" Elena yelled, lighting a fuse she'd hastily stuck in the cake, nearly dropping the match onto the table. Nathan shot her another glare, but leaned down, extinguishing them in one puff, earning wild applause from the kids. "Cut the cake!" she cheered, handing him a plastic knife, but her clumsiness sent it tumbling to the ground. "Oh no!" she yelped, bending to grab it, her own hat falling into the grass. Nathan watched her, then did something no one expected. He laughed, a loud, ringing laugh that echoed through the park, so genuine and strong that the whole crowd hushed for a second to listen. "You're a disaster," he said, picking up the knife and cutting a slice, handing it to her. "Eat it, and don't drop it." Elena took the piece, eyes sparkling. "That's the loudest you've ever laughed," she crowed, hopping and nearly losing the slice. "I knew it. I'm awesome." She took a bite, then passed pieces to Mrs. Martha, Mr. Tom, and the kids, turning the party into a joyful mess. The kids swarmed Nathan, dragging him into a game of tag, while Mr. Tom retold the ice cream clown chase story, sending everyone into hysterics. Nathan was stuck wearing the paper hat all night, holding a slice of cake, glaring but unable to hide his smile. Elena stood beside him, watching him laugh, her heart oddly warm. "See? I told you. You deserve some fun," she said quietly, just for him to hear. Nathan turned, looked at her for a moment, then muttered, "You're an idiot." But his tone wasn't cold, and his eyes softened, like he was thanking her without knowing how. The party wound down as night fell. The kids went home with candy-stuffed hands. Mrs. Martha took her empty teacup, and Mr. Tom folded the chairs. Elena and Nathan lingered under the moonlight, next to the nearly devoured cake. "Thanks," he said softly, hands in his pockets, hat still crooked on his head. "But don't do this again. I'm not used to it." "There won't be a next time," Elena laughed, grabbing the last crumbly piece. "I celebrated early, so now you've got to live till your real birthday for better cake." She winked, dropping the crumb, yelling, "Oh no, not again." Nathan watched her, chuckling softly, and this time he didn't scold. He just stood there in the moonlight, feeling lighter than he had in months. Chapter 9. The Final Days. Joy Until the Last Moment. After the fake birthday party in the park, Nathan stopped trying to push Elena away. He still grumbled, still glared when she dropped things, but he no longer slammed the door in her face or told her to find someone else. Perhaps that big laugh under the moonlight had changed him, not making him forget his illness, but making him realize that living alone in his remaining days wasn't what he wanted. Elena, with her clumsiness and ever-present smile, had become an indispensable part of his life, And she, with all her goofy persistence, decided they'd enjoy every moment together until the end. The next day, Elena knocked on number 9's door, holding a bucket of yellow paint and a huge brush. "Nathan, come out!" she shouted, her voice echoing across the yard. "Let's repaint your house. This green's too depressing." Nathan opened the door, eyeing her suspiciously. "Paint the house?" he asked gruffly. "Do you even know how to paint?" "Nope," Elena grinned, thrusting the bucket forward. "But I learn fast. You'll see." Nathan sighed, but he took the brush she offered and stepped outside, his expression suggesting he was bracing for yet another disaster. They started on the front wall, but Elena, predictably, turned it into chaos. She swung the brush too hard, splattering paint on Nathan's face, then into her own hair. "Oh no," she yelped, trying to wipe it off him with her sleeve, only smearing it further. "Are you painting the wall or me?" Nathan snapped, but the corner of his mouth twitched upward. He retaliated, swiping a streak of paint across her cheek. Elena shrieked, "Hey, that's cheating!" and swung back, turning them both into living, breathing canvases of yellow. Then they discovered the paint wasn't yellow as Elena had thought. It was a blazing orange she'd misread at the store. "Oh my God, your house is a giant orange now," she howled, clutching her stomach, while Nathan shook his head, muttering, "You're a disaster." But he wasn't mad. They sat on the porch, faces and clothes streaked with paint, staring at the garish orange wall glowing in the sun. "My house has never been this bright," Nathan said quietly, and Elena caught a hint of warmth in his voice. She grinned. "See? I'm good at this." A few days later, they decided to adopt a stray cat, the gray one Nathan had once chased with his broom. Elena named it Broom, both to tease him and because she thought it fit. "It'll keep you company when I'm not around," she said, carrying the cat into Nathan's kitchen. But Broom wasn't the obedient type. It leapt onto the table, knocking over a box of cookies Elena had brought, then tore around the room, unraveling a roll of paper towels from the shelf. "Broom, stop!" Elena yelled, chasing it, but she tripped over a chair, crashing down and pulling Nathan, who was trying to catch the cat along with her. They sprawled on the floor, tangled in paper towels, while Broom perched triumphantly on the fridge, staring down at them. "Did you adopt a cat or a monster?" Nathan grumbled, but he burst into loud laughter that filled the chaotic kitchen. Elena crawled up, cookie crumbs in her hair, laughing too. "It's like you. Grumpy but adorable." They cleaned up, scolding Broom between giggles, and for the first time Nathan didn't feel exhausted despite the ache in his chest. The days that followed were filled with such silly antics. They tried fixing the faucet Elena had once broken, but Nathan turned the wrong valve, flooding the yard again. They replanted daisies, but Elena forgot to water them, and Nathan dug too deep, turning the flower bed into a pit. Still, they didn't care. They laughed, they bickered, and they stayed together. One evening, they sat on number 9's porch, Broom curled between them, and for the first time, they talked about deeper things. Nathan gazed at the yard, his voice soft. "I've had heart failure since I was 20. The doctors said I could get a transplant, but I didn't want it. I saw my mom die on the operating table during hers. I didn't want that." He paused, gripping the chair's edge. "I figured living short but free was better than dragging it out in misery." Elena listened quietly, resting her hand on his, gentle and steady. "I'm not good at comforting," she said softly, "but I get it. You chose your way. I don't blame you." She looked at him, eyes bright despite the weight in her chest. "But you've got to let me stay with you, okay? I don't want you alone." Nathan turned to her, staring for a long moment. "Don't you get tired?" he asked. "I'm grumpy. I'm sick. I can't give you anything." Elena smiled faintly, shaking her head. "I used to think love had to be perfect," she said, her voice warm. "My parents split when I was little. I watched them fight all the time, so I was scared of love. But then I grew up, I burnt cookies, I spilled stuff, and I realized life doesn't need to be perfect. It's like burning a cake but still enjoying it." She winked, trying to make him smile. "You're my burnt cake." Nathan laughed, a raspy but genuine sound. "You've burnt my whole life," he said, his hand brushing hers lightly. "But I don't hate it." He looked at her, his eyes softer than ever. "Thanks for staying. I don't want you to go." Elena laughed loudly. nearly dropping the glass she held. But this time she caught it. "See? I'm improving," she cheered, then leaned her head on his shoulder, gentle and sure. "I don't want to go either. You're the first person who's made me feel really happy." They sat there under the moonlight, Broom yawning between them. Nathan's final days passed like that, imperfect, fleeting, but full of laughter. One day they tried baking together, but Elena swapped salt for sugar, and Nathan winced after a bite. "Trying to poison me?" She laughed. "No, just making sure you remember me." He glared but ate the salty slice anyway, muttering, "Good in your weird way." On his last day, Nathan was weaker, but he still sat on the porch with her, watching Broom chase pigeons. "You're the biggest trouble I've ever had," he said faintly. Elena smiled, holding his hand. "And you're my favorite trouble," she replied. They didn't say more, just sat there, happy until the very end, as if time couldn't steal what they'd shared. Chapter 10. Laughter and Memory. Nathan's final days were a string of silly, warm moments Elena would never forget. They painted his house the wrong color, adopted a cat that wrecked the kitchen, and laughed together as if time weren't their enemy. But one quiet afternoon on Number 9's porch, Elena looked at Nathan, coughing hoarsely, his trembling hand clutching a glass of water, and couldn't hold back her question. "Are you crazy?" She furrowed her brow, half joking, half serious. "I mean, you're grumpy with the whole world, chased me off a dozen times, and now you let me stick around bothering you. Are you actually crazy?" Nathan turned to her, his tired eyes flickering with surprise. He smirked, a rare smile she adored. "Maybe I am," he rasped, "but not because I hate you. I'm just tired." He didn't elaborate, but Elena felt the weight in his words. Not grumpiness, but an exhaustion he'd kept hidden. She laughed loudly, patting his shoulder. "Crazy or not, just don't kick me out again." He shook his head, muttering, "You're the crazy one." But his gaze softened, as if her question had touched a deep corner of his heart. Elena didn't know that question would become his last gift to her. One early morning, as sunlight slipped through Number 9's curtains, she knocked, holding a bowl of chicken soup she'd made with extra care. No spills this time, unlike their first encounter. "Nathan, come eat soup. I nailed it," she shouted, but no answer came. She pushed the door open and found him on the couch, peaceful as if asleep, his hand resting on his chest. Beside him was a yellow sticky note, his scrawled handwriting freezing her in place. "Thanks for asking if I'm crazy. Funny thing, I'm not crazy, just tired. Nathan." She sat beside him, clutching the soup, tears streaming down as she smiled. "You idiot," she choked out. "I brought soup and you won't eat it." She set the bowl on the table, brushing his messy hair, the bird's nest she'd always teased, and whispered, "I didn't spill it this time. Wake up and eat." But he didn't stir, and she knew he'd never taste her soup. She wiped her eyes, forcing a grin. "Your face really is ugly, but I miss you already." Nathan left quietly as he'd wanted. No hospital, no machines, just his little house with Broom, the cat curled in the corner. Elena called the ambulance, standing in the yard as they took him away, clutching his note. She didn't stay sad long. She wasn't good at sadness. Instead, she resolved to turn her longing into something joyful, silly, and worth living for, the way Nathan had laughed with her. A month later, Elena opened a small shop on the corner of Elmwood Street, near the park where they'd held the fake birthday party. She named it Grumpy Soup Corner, a funny warm nod to Nathan and that first spilled soup he never got to try. The shop was painted a blazing orange, the mistaken color they'd laughed over, and bore a wooden sign out front. "Good soup, but don't throw it at anyone." She wrote it by hand, messy like their old notes. And every time she saw it, she laughed, picturing Nathan glaring. "You spilled it all and now you're opening a shop?" The shop sold soup, the dish Nathan never tasted, but she was determined to perfect it to make up for that first failure. She learned to cook properly, though she still burnt pots or mixed up spices sometimes. Her first customer was Mrs. Martha, sipping chicken soup and saying, "Better than the batch you dumped at Nathan's door." Mr. Tom brought a chair to sit, retelling Nathan's ice cream clown chase. making the shop roar with laughter. Elena stood behind the counter, wearing a glittery paper hat, serving and storytelling, about dropping cookies on Nathan, about him hitting the water pipe. "He never ate my soup," she'd say, grinning, "but I bet he'd call it awful and finish it anyway." She kept the stray cat Nathan once hated, the gray one he'd called a furry pest. She renamed it Nath, not Broom this time, wanting a piece of him with her. Nath slept on the counter, occasionally knocking over customers' water, prompting Elena's familiar cry, "Oh no, not again." "He's just like him," she'd mutter, stroking Nath. "Grumpy but lovable." One day, Nath spilled a bowl of soup she'd just ladled, and she laughed. "See? Nathan sent him to troll me." A year after Nathan's passing, Elena sat in the shop on a quiet evening, gazing at the park through the window. The place grew busy, not just for the soup, but for her stories, told with clumsy, honest cheer. She hung Nathan's last note on the wall beside the sign, a reminder. Customers asked about it, and she'd smile. "It's from the first guy I asked, 'Are you crazy?' He called me dumb, but he stayed." She didn't tell the full story, his illness, the soup he never ate, because she wanted them to remember Nathan as she did, a lovable nutcase, not a tragedy. Elena kept living as she always had, optimistic, klutzy, and full of laughter. She still dropped things, sang off key, planted flowers, and forgot to water them. But each time she'd glance at Nath, at the note on the wall, and feel Nathan somewhere muttering, "You're a disaster." She didn't linger in sadness. He wouldn't have wanted that. He was just tired, she'd tell herself, but he was happy with me. One day she stood outside the shop watching the neighborhood kids play in the park. She remembered the fake birthday, Nathan's laugh, and smiled. She wrote a new note, sticking it on the shop door. "Ask someone today, 'Are you crazy?' because you might be the only one brave enough to ask." It was what she'd learned from Nathan. A silly question could change a life. Elena didn't look for another Nathan. He was one of a kind, with his grumpiness and rare smiles. She kept going, running the shop, tending Nath, burning cookies like an unbreakable habit. Her life wasn't perfect, but it was good. Like the soup he never tasted, like the memory of a nutcase who laughed because of her. And every time she laughed, she knew Nathan, somewhere, was smirking, muttering, "You're such an idiot." The story ends, but love doesn't need perfection. Just truth, like a burnt cake that still tastes sweet. Ask, "Are you okay?" because one question can shift everything. Laugh more, even through tears, because joy fights loss. Live each moment, don't wait for forever. Time doesn't promise it. Beautiful memories are treasures eternal, like Nathan's note to Elena. Life's worth living when we dare to be clumsy, to love, to laugh. Elena carries on with soup, Nath, and her smile, reminding us happiness lies in the small, real things. Thank you for following this heartfelt story of Soul Stories channel. Share your thoughts about the story in the comments below. If you believe that true love can withstand all trials and sometimes begins in the simplest of ways, don't forget to hit the like button and share this story with your friends. To never miss out on touching and meaningful stories, subscribe to our channel and help us spread messages of love and warmth to everyone.